everybody out there? This is your boy Chase speaking.
And this is Devin of War Room Sports. And we'd like to welcome you guys to episode number 253 of the War Room. In this episode, we talk about the big weekend that we just had in sports. We had the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, NBA playoffs, including that Game 7 with the Clippers and the Spurs.
I'm going to tell those fellows the carnival came back.
You're going to tell them that the carnival came back?
Yes.
Okay, we'll tell them that after.
The carnival came back!
And in addition to the carnival coming back, we had the Kentucky Derby, the NFL draft. I was in Chicago for a few days. So look, it was a big weekend, and we're going to discuss everything that happened last weekend and everything going forward with the Mayweather-Pacquiao situation, the NBA playoffs, and we had Fred Perdue of College Football Extra on to talk about his post-draft report for the NFL as well. So sit back, relax, get your popcorn. This is episode 253 of the War Room, and it starts right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the War Room. You got Dev, Kill, Jimmy, PJ, and B. Austin, the hot block commander. Give it to you how you want it in a 1 or 2 hour show that'll keep the brain running with the premise to talk sports on a national level. Bold with them topics, sorta like some rebels. When it's game time, they like the Fab Five doing prime time. Sports conglomerates speak their minds a little bit. From sports medicine to sports veterans and greats. The 4th of 26, so the war in Kuwait. It's the War Room with 5 nights at the round table. 5 Philly guys diversified and educated.
With the show right now, so thank y'all for joining us again in the War Room. Everybody, I'm back at the round table with my partners, Jimmy and B. Austin. We're going to recap one of the biggest weeks in sports history. Not history, I'm exaggerating a little bit, just maybe recent memory. It was a big weekend. We're going to discuss the second round of the NBA playoffs and a lot more. We're going to hear from Fred Perdue of College Football Extra. So, join us right now in the JW Philly Realty chat room. That's blogtalkradio.com/The War Room. Or as usual, you can join us on Facebook or Twitter at War Room Sports. You can call in directly when we open up the Digital Extreme Tech hotline. That's 323-410-0012. Shout out to everybody on the War Room Sports Podcast Network. You can reach that by going to warroomsports.com and clicking on the Podcast Network tab, or you can get there by iTunes or the War Room Sports mobile app. So, fellas, what's going on?
Yo, Baltimore stopped burning. Floyd stole a lot of money, and War Room Sports is here. And we talked about both so much that the powers that be is trying to shut us down, but it can't happen.
Yo, I hear what you're saying.
Shout out to everything in the world of sports, all the people out there continuing to make news for us, whether it's for sticks, getting caught deflating footballs. We got a couple sexual assaults. We got some murders. You know how sports is. So shout out to everybody in the world of sports to keep us busy.
No doubt.
And I think that we'll talk about this later, but I think Pac-Man probably stole more money.
All right, well, let's get into all that stuff now then. So I'm going to let everybody know what happened this week while they were on the grind. And while you're on the grind, of course, it's brought to you by DirecTV. If you like a better TV experience than cable has to offer, including that NFL Sunday ticket, go to our website, warroomsports.com. Click on the DirecTV logo and order yourself a better TV experience at a discounted War Room Sports sign-up rate. If you call yourself a sports fan, then you got to have DirecTV. NFL draft. We know that just passed, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later with Fred Perdue of College Football Extra. But Jameis Winston, the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. Before the draft, everything that they said about Winston was he's a great player, he's immature, can he get out of his own way? The Bucs take a chance on him with the number 1 pick in the draft, and the first thing Jameis does, because we know he wasn't at the draft, was send a picture to Instagram from his home sitting in front of a plate of crab legs. And if you don't know what crab legs and Jameis Winston have in common, we don't really have time to tell you since we're a little late because of these technical difficulties. But, fellas, what did you think when you first saw that? Like, was it a big deal to you, or was it, like, oh, man, this dude in his own way again?
Yeah, I just, he's a cocky, arrogant, extra some of which. I mean, that's his personality. It was a little Bush League, but I don't care. So what? So what? He's poking fun at us. He's hitting us all with nah. I got drafted, and you made a deal about me stealing drafted.
My honest answer to that is, initially when it happened, I thought it was hilarious. But then I thought about it. I'm like, the Bucks, the one thing they were questioning was, his character, his off-the-field activity. I was like, he didn't even make it out of the first evening before they had to give him a phone call and tell him to take something down or chill. Like, he wasted no time in, quote-unquote, getting in his bag. So to me, it was kind of hilarious, but it's like, all right, what's going to come of this? And this dude is one of the more arrogant players I've seen coming out, and I appreciate it. But like I told you the other day when we were talking, I was like, either he is going to be an amazing quarterback, a legendary quarterback, or he's going to fail miserably. I don't know if there's any in-between with Jameis Winston, and I'm looking forward to see what happens. But I'm like, my man didn't waste any time getting into some ish.
Jim, that's a great point. There definitely is a polar opposite with him, and I keep hearing these Jamarcus Russell comparisons, but the biggest difference there is one guy is very, very good at playing football. Alaba needs some improvement and growth, and the other guy could not play football at all. So I don't really.
Yeah, but he can throw the ball 80 yards from his knees, though.
He can throw it 50 from his back.
He could throw it 0 from his living room couch. But I it was the same way. It was just like me. It was like a shaking my head moment. I'm like, come on, Jameis. Like, it's funny. It's definitely funny. But like Jimmy said, if the organization has to give you a call the first night, which now they're like denying that they did, it's a little bit of a problem. Jameis Winston has never been, in my opinion, besides the sexual assault allegations. All the other stuff where people say he's gotten in his own way, I don't think he's been in any serious trouble outside of those allegations. It's just been a bunch of boneheaded, immature type of stuff. But this is the kind of stuff, when you become the face of a franchise, the number one pick in the NFL draft, certain things are probably a little off limit, and poking fun at some of the stuff that, almost got you out of that number one spot. That probably wasn't the smartest thing to do, but I don't think it's the end of the world. So we'll just move on that one. Something else in the news, Herschel Walker has always been like the model citizen in sports, let alone the NFL, as far as being in shape. This is the man who did like 1,000 push-ups and 1,000 sit-ups every day and got in shape like the all-natural way. His son is following in his footsteps as far as being in shape and being athletic. However, his son has chosen to be a cheerleader. I think they said at first Herschel Walker was a little baffled because he thought, he was going to be on the sideline with pom-poms and cheering. But he's doing like the cheer competitions where you have the athletic dudes flying through the air and lifting chicks and throwing them and doing backflips and all that kind of stuff. Did that make it any better to you?
All I want to say is, man, shout out to Del Curry. You did an amazing job raising your boy, and we could tell that you were there because your boy followed in your footsteps and actually added to your legacy. But some of these fathers, like, it's obvious that they weren't there. Even, they were great athletes, but it's obvious they weren't there, man. So,
shout out
Tim Hardaway, Magic Johnson. Tim Hardaway, Magic Johnson, Herschel Walker. The list goes on, man. But, all I want to do is say shout out to Del Curry, man.
Magic was more than not there, man. Magic's sins at the Forum Club came back to – never mind.
Yeah, Magic is my favorite athlete of all time, but he had to be a terrible father and husband. I mean, we see how, no disrespect, to that community, but when your son ends up that way, and you bring home the germ, like yo, your relationship game is weak.
Yeah, but funny that y'all said all that since I asked y'all about Herschel Walker, but I get it.
Oh yeah, my bad. Yo,
I get it.
Shout out to Del Curry, man. We need more Del Currys in this world, man.
All right, so y'all can read between the lines on that. These brothers, they don't even want to answer that. So that should tell you everything you need to know about how they feel about Herschel Walker's son being a cheerleader. We got another legacy right here, and this one isn't good either. Lawrence Taylor Jr. is sentenced to 10 years. This is a plea deal, actually. He made a plea deal. So he'll do 10 years for child molestation and statutory rape. He was just about to go to trial for this in Cobb County, Georgia. He's 33, and he was accused of sexually assaulting two 13-year-old girls in 2012 and 2013, man. Y'all got any bars for Lawrence Taylor Jr.?
Yo, my bars is for his dad as well, because
he may have followed in the footsteps, though. He
definitely followed in the footsteps because his pop was about taking the yamage. And again, his pop, in my personal opinion, is the greatest defensive player I've ever seen play. But a terrible human being.
Jimmy kept his eyes closed while Reggie White was playing, obviously.
Obviously, I didn't. Reggie White is a number 2, but to me, it's not close. But even beyond it, listen to what I'm saying. Reggie White's number 2, LT's number 1 in terms of on the field.
Not even
off
close.
The field,
that's kind of crazy.
I mean, well, I shouldn't say it's not even close, but to me, it's a clear cut.
But not close.
Well, no, I shouldn't say it's not close, but to me, it's a clear cut number 1. But Reggie is there at number 2. But LT, the stuff I've seen him do on the football field is crazy. Off the field, he's a terrible human being. But the fact remains that we'll probably talk about this a little bit later. How you can be a terrible human being, but still be elite at what you do. But he's obviously also a terrible father.
When you're 23 years old and you're trying to put into a 13-year-old's, I mean, I really don't have anything to say.
Yo, he's 33, B. You gave him a 10-year difference.
Oh, my God. Yo.
You should be ashamed of yourself. The way you carry yourself.
Yo, I got daughters, B. I got daughters, B, so even though the FCC, I usually don't care about them, there's no bars I could give that dude that wouldn't get us shut down. So, that's all I have to say.
All right, so
I'll knock you down.
Titus Young. Titus Young. This story was kind of crazy. Titus Young, if you guys don't know, is a wide receiver from the. Titus Young played for the. What's the name of the damn team? The Titans, right?
Detroit Lions.
I'm sorry,
Lions. The Lions.
Detroit Lions. I'm thinking because his name is Titus. I'm saying Titans. He's going to do 12. He's going to do a year in a mental facility. He was already in a mental facility for 99 days, but he went on a 2-month rampage at this mental facility and committed assault on, I think, 12 different people. So they said they were giving him like a month.
Attorney included.
They're giving him a month for everybody he assaulted and has to, so he has to. They're even giving him credit for 99 days served, which I don't understand how you do that if during that 99 days you went on a rampage attacking people. But he's going to do 12 months, not in the same mental facility, but he's going to do another year. So what do you guys think about Titus Young basically going crazy?
For me, this is a very important story because we don't talk about mental health issues as a society. We talk about them. You notice I said we don't talk about them as a society. We talk about them less in the African American community, and we don't acknowledge them at all in sports for the most part, even when cats obviously suffer from mental health issues. I think that he should be held accountable for his behavior. I think he is responsible for his behavior because at some level he understands right from wrong, but it's painfully apparent that he had some compulsions to attack other human beings. I have a lot of questions about this story because I don't understand how you go on a rampage for for 2 months. Like at the point where you started the rampage.
At what point do they cut him off?
Yeah, like and me personally, I don't knock you the F out, but like if you started a rampage, like how don't you turn it off, turn the switch off, put him in isolation, whatever. Yo, he beat up his own legal counsel. He beat up staff at the facility. He beat up other patients. Yo, he was just beating cats up on his Debo. But I think it's important that we acknowledge the mental health component to this, because there's something wrong. There's something off there. And I'm glad that it doesn't turn into him going to prison, because prison and the prison industrial complex is not about rehabilitation. It's not about addressing mental health. It's not about any of that. So at least he's in a place where the intention is to help him out and help him fight the demons and the problems that he has. So I think that that's very important to acknowledge. But yeah, dude went crazy. Like he went off.
It really is like an incomplete story to me, because I don't even know how and why Titus Young even ended up in a mental facility in the first place. I don't know. Did we talk about this before? Because I don't remember.
No, we definitely didn't.
I don't remember the genesis of this story.
We did a little bit.
Yo,
Okay,
only thing I gotta say is, man, yo, all I gotta say is Titus Young, yo, slow down, baby. Slow down, baby. I'm on the rampage. Yo, but anyway, seriously, but seriously, though, this is like a non-story. I hope my man gets help, but like you said, we don't remember the genesis or the exodus of the story or any of the issues between that. So why this popped up out of nowhere, I have no clue. But and the thing is, like, my man is struggling, so he definitely needs to get some help. I agree completely with B. Austin that we don't talk about like mental health issues, which is funny because I have friends.
Let me tell you why it's an issue though, Jimmy. Just real quick. I know I'm interrupting, but real quick. The reason that it's a good story is because doctors are attributing his mental issues and him being off to football hits, to hits that he's taken on the field.
Ah, okay.
Oh, so they're going. Okay. So he basically doing the best to get that lawsuit money up.
So possibly he's like, acting it out, like, playing that role, or they're legitimately right, because I agree with you, man. It's funny that you say it. Like we don't take it serious, specifically within our community, because like I have friends from other cultures that they talk about their therapist like it's just normal. Like, yeah, my therapist, like it's just part of what they do, and we like shun that completely. So I agree with you, man. But now you add that to the mix, man. It's more to meet the eye with this. So you may hear some more about this.
Yo, Ahmad Brooks is in the news now. He's the latest San Francisco 49er defensive player to be accused of sexual assault. But this is ironic because it's actually the same woman who accused his teammate Ray McDonald. This is the exact same party. She claims at that party she slipped and bumped her head and was unconscious by the pool, and she was saying she didn't consent to having sex with Ray McDonald, and that's where those charges came from. Now, in a new complaint, she's saying that Ahmad Brooks groped her in a sexual manner during that same period while she was woozy, passed out, or whatever she was after she slipped and hit her head on the pool. I don't really know what because Ray McDonald actually put in a countersuit for defamation, and he never actually got charged for that. So it's kind of seeming to me like that one fell through. So now she's going after the next one. I'm not saying that it fell through. She's going after the next one, as in she's lying, because I don't know if she's lying or not. But it's like, okay, I didn't get that one. This dude touched me too, so I'm gonna throw another net out there and see what fish I can catch.
You need more people.
Speak for yourself.
Yo, I just want to say, man, like, he should have just paid her off like Shaq do, Kobe voice. But the thing is though, man, like, these athletes in the sexual assault. I remember it was like a Chappelle skit about athletes having women like sign waivers and whatnot. And I think it was a story we did the last year, the year before, that JJ Redick actually does that. He even makes chicks sign abortion contracts. Like, that's going to become more of a reality, man, because a lot of these dudes are just out of control when it comes to the image. And shouldn't even say just athletes, us as men in general, like, you know, we do it all for the nookie. But, yo, when you got something to lose, man, like, man, oh man. And sexual assault's not cool, by the way. We're not saying we condone that, but the story does sound a little fishy.
Sexual assault is a horrible and terrible thing, but there has to be context. And I know I may or may not upset our feminist. I may upset our feminist listeners, but yeah, this story, you need more people, lady. You need more people. I'm not saying that something didn't go down, but you need more people. And apparently you will go after more people.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I said, I'm not even going to make a judgment on that. And that's not even me being PC. It's just I'm a little skeptical as well, and it's only because, okay, if this did happen, then why did it have to be two separate complaints? Like, why didn't you name both of these guys from the door when it all happened? So if it is true, it's just the manner in which you're releasing this information is what makes it seem a little fishy. But, you know, we'll see what comes of it. Like you said, Ray McDonald never actually got in trouble for this, so we will see. LeBron. And this is crazy because Jimmy and I talked about it yesterday, and it's, you know, LeBron can't click a like button without being all over the news, and we're just going to take it a little further because we're talking about it as well. LeBron, we know he says that he does this social media blackout during playoff time. He doesn't talk on social media. He doesn't call anybody. As a matter of fact, he supposedly called to congratulate Chris Paul for his game-winning shot in Game 7 and didn't let Paul say anything back. He just congratulated him, told him, you know, whatever, and then he hung up on him because he had to stay in his focused frame of mind. Well, the other day, LeBron must have, you know, he must have been surfing social media during his social media blackout because he clicked like on a photo on Instagram from an Instagram profile called Perfect Booties. And the photo that he liked was a pretty nice booty, but, you know, a lot of people were calling LeBron out because he's supposed to be on his social media blackout. Thoughts?
He's a man first,
all,
man.
I want to say salute to Perfect Booties. Shout out to y'all. War Room Sports is always in support of Perfect Booties and even Imperfect Booties. So cut the check. Let's do something. He is a man first. And, you know, I usually take the time to pile on the LeBron pause because, you know, that's just what I do. But there was a time based on some of the photos and some of the things that he said, some of the behavior that he's exhibited, that I thought that, you know, he was with Jason Collins and Dwight Howard and his teammates, Christina Bob
Dwayne Wade
and Dwayne Wade. Yeah, I thought he was with them guys. But apparently he's not. Yeah, he's not with them guys, and he appreciates birthday cake as we all appreciate birthday cake. So salute to him. This is one of those times where, yo, Brian, you was just doing what men do and what you're supposed to do. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what social media is.
Listen, man. All I can say, man, is from someone who dodges a thirst trap daily on IG, because the thirst trap on IG is completely real. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. So, you know, even LeBron fell for that during his blackout, man. And you know, every once in a while you're going to slip, man. And the thing about it is, like a lot of these thirst traps women out here,
I don't slip, I fall down.
On IG. You know, specifically on IG, I mean, a lot of them have low self-esteem and no fathers at home. So if you click like, and you may end up betting that young lady. So, LeBron, man, salute to you for this, man. You're a man first before a basketball player, before even a husband, man. So, nothing wrong with just hitting the like button, man. I mean, you could be worse. You could be like Drake. Drake is like, yo, if that's a big story, I couldn't imagine him being the best player in the league. He goes hard.
Proposed to her. Drake would have proposed.
Yo, he would have. Not only would he hit his like, he would have said something.
I don't think the story is necessarily about him hitting the like
button. It's about the hypocritical thing.
It's. I mean, and y'all know I was gonna go here. No matter what he's doing, being a man, salute to that, all that. Yeah, y'all know I was gonna go here. Everything LeBron does and his team does is calculated. Like, y'all know how I don't believe anything athletes say half the time anyway. So I don't believe that there is really a social media blackout per se. unless the only thing that constitutes a blackout is you not actually typing anything. LeBron is too sensitive of a human being not to be in the midst of the news cycle and knowing exactly what's going on, who's saying what. So for me to sit here and for a minute say that I believe that LeBron isn't all over social media during the playoffs, like, I would think myself that I'm a fool. Like, there's no way that I believe that. But like I said, if we're gonna make the what constitutes a blackout is you actually not saying anything, because we see friends do this all the time. I'm leaving social media for a while. But some of these people, like, you see their whole profile disappear. So they're actually being real with it. But if you got profiles and you can still read the stuff every day, you're not really doing a social media blackout.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because to be honest with you, I do that all the time. I go through phases where I don't type anything. But I definitely read. Like, you definitely read, because to be honest with you, to be completely honest with you, I probably get more of my news via social media than the actual news at this point. Like, even though some of the mediums are the news.
Who's saying what? You know LeBron.
Yeah, like, even though I'm talking about just like general world news, even the weather, for Christ's sakes, like, even though some of the mediums are maybe NBC or ABC because they're all online now, so I generally don't even watch TV like that no more. So I understand, like, LeBron at the end of the day is a business, so it's kind of counterproductive for him not to know what's going on in the world. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's a global business himself, so I mean, but even though global business,
you look at the actual photo that he liked, like, that thirst trap would have probably caught anybody.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what I'm saying.
And you know, people will immediately screenshot it, so he's never gonna get out of it.
And what I'm saying is, like, there's nothing wrong with that, man. Like, you see some, but you know, at the end of the day, like me and you talked about the other day, LeBron couldn't even take a smash without it making news. Like, it's kind of ridiculous. Like, he lives within LeBron is basically living within a fishbowl, and you know, it's crazy to see this, because he's maybe, I know Austin's going to hate when I say this, but when you look back and say Michael, LeBron is kind of like the modern day Michael, not in terms of game, but in terms of the publicity and his status within the league. So I could only imagine what it would have been like if Mike had social media and things to worry about, you know, while he was gambling and, you know, doing what he had to do. Yeah. Like, it would have been through the roof.
Mike a-hole, though. Mike wouldn't even have got on social media because he don't want to talk to nobody.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, man.
I bet you he would have been on there liking them pics, though. Mike also liked that young meat. That other white meat.
Not on that John. It had been a white site, a white girl site.
Yeah, pretty much. That's true.
And when I mix a lot, one of the things that I pray for is, like, when we really do reach that pinnacle, that we are protected from the thirst traps that are out there, because, you know, we're a little older than LeBron and we're not quite Mike age. So we are wise with the way we deploy ourselves on social media. But, groupies are real, man. Groupies are real.
Absolutely.
Thirst traps are real. And the devil is in social media. So that's all I got to say, Salute to LeBron.
All right. So, shout out to that whole thing. LeBron, all he got to do is just say, look, man, I said I wasn't talking. Even if he didn't really say that out loud, people will believe him. He just said he wasn't talking.
He should have said, did y'all see that ass?
I know, and then everybody will be distracted and won't even care no more.
He should have said,
the young lady is doing quite well because of the attention also.
Mm-hmm.
She was doing,
and if he tried, he definitely can get the labia if he tried.
All right, so last thing, man, let's go to something super positive. We know Ernie Johnson from TNT, Inside the NBA, and a few other things for Turner Broadcasting. He won the Emmy recently for Best Studio Host. I personally think it's well-deserved because he sits in there and has to be the guy controlling all the madness that goes on Inside the NBA, which is probably the funniest show on television, and it's not even deemed a sitcom or anything like that. But he won the Emmy for Best Studio Host in a category that had titans like Bob Costas.
The GOAT.
It had a lot of people in it, including Stu Scott. But he actually in his speech, just felt that he wasn't worthy. He called Stu Scott's daughters up to the stage and actually gave them his Emmy, in memory of their father. And, if you saw the video, it was a real, it was an Onion type video. And I'm not talking about the website Onion. I'm talking about like chopping onions while you're watching the video and your eyes start to sweat and all that kind of stuff. What did you guys think of the gesture?
Yo, real quick, I just want to say it comes on the heels of me watching that E60 special on EJ, and I don't know if you guys have seen that, but definitely go try to check it out. It's probably online somewhere. But E60 did like maybe like a complete half hour on Ernie and his life, and yo, it's like he is painted as being damn near like a perfect human being. Like this dude is like the most caring, giving, honest person you've ever seen. They made me look at it like, yo, nobody's that. Listen, EJ got something in his closet, man. He must be like cheating on his taxes or fornicating with some other midget women or something, because the way that joint came off, that joint was also one of them stare at the ceiling, sweaty eye joints. And right after that, I saw this. I'm like, yo, come on, EJ, you gotta chill, man. Like EJ on his Mother Teresa joint these days. But it was still amazing to see. It was amazing to see, and the fact that Stuart Scott's legacy lives on. He saw his daughters go up there and accept it, and the support that he got from the entire ESPN family. Because you see a lot of times where networks are competitors for the most part, even though these guys have a partnership consisting of the NBA. But to see them support each other and to see the love that Stuart Scott is still getting is amazing. And salute to EJ for that. Just another it's a class act, man. And definitely a great story, man. But EJ, the bar is set so high, man. I'm just waiting for something to drop on you, because you know how the media works. EJ is looking like a god right now. They're gonna go dig in his dirt and find something crazy.
Yeah,
I ain't gonna hold y'all. I kind of thought B like that they were gonna give the award to Stu Scott anyway.
I did too. Even though
I guess the Emmy's like, man, we don't do that. Like,
the conspiracy theory in me was thinking that maybe he announced he was going to do this or said he was going to do it, which is why they did that E60 spread on him. So I was thinking like, I said maybe he went to ESPN like, yo, I'm gonna win this John, I'm gonna give it to Stu. They was like, all right, well, let's paint this picture of you, like, because if you watch it, it was like the E60 John was like, yo, was just so flattering, and it told just a complete great story of how the great guy he was. And I'm like, yo, why did ESPN do that for Turner Sports John? I said, oh, here's my conspiracy right here.
Yeah, man. Salute to him, man. EJ, good dude. Deals with all of those personalities. Keeps Shaq and Barkley from rumbling. Lets Kenny feel like he's intelligent. Good dude, man.
Plus, he seemed like Stu Scott's daughters. They tried to act for a minute, but they seemed like they had a speech ready. I don't know if that's because they may have expected to win, but they had the speech ready. And they even thanked, Mr. Johnson. But that might have been off the cuff. So shout out to the whole situation, nothing. Man. Rest in peace to Stu Scott, man. And good deal, EJ. So, look, man, before we get into everything that happened this past weekend, Jim, real quick, let everybody know what happened. I mean, who's having a birthday, and then I'll let everybody know how to get in contact with us.
Yes. And birthdays are brought to you by Digital Extreme Technologies. Do you or your business need a custom website? Listen, there's nobody to call but Digital Extreme Technologies. You don't have to break the bank. And if you mention War Room Sports, you get the hookup. Plus, financing options are available. Visit digitalextremetech.com. Or you can call 267-205-4203. And like I said, say War Room Sports sent you, and you will get a discount, and you will get the hookup. Time for these birthdays.
My birthday, yay!
James Loney turns 31. Drew Stanton, the baseball or football, whatever you want to call him, he turns 31. Alex Smith turns 31, and the receiver still hasn't caught a touchdown. Sean Marion, the Matrix, 37. Rest in power to one Johnny U. Many consider the greatest quarterback of all time, Johnny Unitas. R.I.P. Shout out to him. Just want to give some quick birthdays, and we definitely want to give a nice big warm salute to all of these folks on their birthdays. Salute, gentlemen.
Salute.
My birthday, yay!
All right, real quick, everybody. If you want to get in touch with us, you can check out our website, warroomsports.com. While you're on the website, make sure you take a few minutes, Browse around. Click on every tab there is to click because you will find something that interests you, I promise. If you want to talk to us while we're on the air right now, make sure you get into that JW Philly Realty chat room. That's blogtalkradio.com/The War Room. To enter the chat room, just sign up for a free profile on Blog Talk Radio. If you don't want to create an account, just sign into your Facebook and Twitter accounts. And while you're at it, make sure you click follow so you can get updates and reminders about the show. There was almost about to be an update about today's show because it was about to be postponed. See, and you would have got that news first. But if you want to call in and speak with us, the Digital Extreme Tech Hotline will be open in about 15 minutes. That number is 323-410-0012. Press 1 when prompted. If you're already listening from your phone, just press 1 if you want to talk. Let's get into these hot topics real quick because it was a very, very big weekend in sports. We had the Kentucky Derby. We had regular season Major League Baseball. We had NBA playoffs that included a hell of a Game 7. We had the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. We had the NFL draft, man. It was just a very, very big weekend if you love sports. And we're going to talk about some of that because we're not going to get into the horse racing and some of that other stuff. But look, Jimmy, before we do, let everybody know about your favorite sponsor and who
Absolutely.
Hot Topics are brought to them by.
If your schedule is too hectic to read as much as you want, try audiobooks, kick back, and let someone else do that reading for you. Go to audibletrial.com/warroomsports and get you a free audio book. You definitely have to try audiobooks to keep you up to date with what's going on in the literary world. I actually just added a new book to my to my wish list. It doesn't come out to the 19th, but Deb put me down this afternoon with a book written by Marvin Gaye's wife about their life. And just reading the excerpts of how Marvin treated her like a piece of dirt, but she also gave the yams to Teddy Pendergrass and Frankie Beverly. Sounds like it's going to be an amazing read. You know what I'm saying? I'm into that old school gossip. So shout out to my brothers from Philly for smashing Marvin's chick. But PSP. But anyway, there's a lot of great books on Audible. audibletrial.com/warroomsports. And keeping in sports, I always say this every show. The greatest audiobook ever is Mike Tyson's book. So go get that for free. audibletrial.com/warroomsports and get you a free book. Let's go.
Jim, you know Teddy P would have smashed everybody's wife and maybe their husbands too if he would have never
maybe their husbands.
That accident.
The excerpt was crazy. She said that, she wasn't going to cheat on the boy, but, she was trying to get his attention, and he was ignorant. So she was like, all right, who's his biggest rival? All right, I'm going to give him this box.
That article, though, said it used the word torture, how Marvin used to torture his wife. That just makes it sound so...
But how do you want your husband's attention so bad that you're willing to give the box to his rival just to get his attention?
Never question
like
the
motive.
motive.
Giving Peyton the box.
What you sound like Tom ain't paying me no money. I'm gonna get his box to Peyton real quick.
That was crazy. But I guess we could consider Marvin's wife's activity sports. I mean, she was a sporting woman. You look at it that way.
Yeah. There you go.
Look,
way to bring it around.
If kind of like if Miss Jackson, Floyd ex-John, instead of going to Nelly, she'd have went to Pac-Man. That would have been the craziest thing ever.
Do with it.
Speaking of, let's talk about what's been dubbed Maypac, the hashtag Maypac and Fight of the Century. The big match that everybody's been waiting for the last 5 or 6 years, finally here. It went down Saturday night. Let's recap the fight a little bit before we start talking about the subsequent things that are happening now after the fight, like the injuries and all that kind of stuff. Let's just talk about the fight first. I mean, the event we know was huge. They had all kinds of celebrities out there. You know, you had Jay and Beyonce. You had Denzel out there looking like somebody's drunk uncle.
Jay's part of the whole fight.
Allen Iverson even made the weigh-in. Probably couldn't afford to fight. It was just a lot of people out there, and it was just such a big event. Do you guys now? Jimmy did make this point in a conversation that we were having, and I had always agreed with him because it was always my same sentiment. There was no way in hell that this fight was going to live up to the hype of the past 5 or 6 years, and I think we can all agree that it didn't. But what are your thoughts on the fight? Were you guys disappointed?
No, I wasn't disappointed because it played out to my expectation, at least from Floyd, from my perspective on Floyd and what I expected him to do. It was a standard and typical Floyd Mayweather performance. Manny now claims to have a torn arm, a broken clavicle, a messed up shoulder, whatever it is that he's claiming. And there may be some truth to that, and I don't take Manny at his words because he sounds like a little Richard complaining about it. But if you look at his punch output, Manny usually throws between 800 and 900 punches in a fight, and he was down around 450, 500 punches. So he may have been injured. But what I tell people with regards to that, I was rooting for Pac-Man to get the victory, but the way he fights, Floyd being a counter puncher, Manny would have taken more risks. He would have thrown more punches earlier, and he may have opened himself to get knocked out by taking as many risks to get to Floyd. So I don't think that even without the injury, it would have ended differently. But it was a letdown. I mean, there was no way that this fight could have lived up to the hype unless they both would have pulled out machetes and started hacking on each other. I mean, that's about the only way that it could have lived up to the expectation. That was kind of my take.
All right. Well, for me, right.
Oh, go ahead, Jim. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, for me, the fight definitely could live to the hype. I mean, like you just mentioned, the crowd was crazy. The only thing missing was like Frank Lucas and his fur. Outside of that, everybody was there. So from that standpoint, the hype was just.
Remember,
Frank
they even
Lucas
had a
was
Denzel meme about that. They were like,
yeah. He was still there. Yeah, he was trying to be on the low. He was trying to be on the low, Uncle Denzel. Yo, shout out to hashtag Uncle Denzel. You go to IG and put hashtag Uncle Denzel. There's literally millions and millions of memes. But the thing is, just going back to our shows, and I'm talking about like show like 89 and 72. Anytime we brought up this fight, it kind of played out the way we said. Even when Austin was hating on Floyd, he even said that, yo, Floyd will beat him, but he's still a coward. Like, it kind of played out exactly the way we've been saying for literally years. For we've literally been saying this for years. That, like, yo, even if they would have fought years ago, like Styles make fights, he couldn't beat him. Like, Floyd's ability to not get hit and be okay with, like, and I heard Bob Ryan make a great point. He said, yo, Floyd has found a way to make millions by doing Olympic-style boxing. He just goes in and outpoints people. Right. So by Floyd fighting the way he fights, you know, and it's also funny. I was watching the fight game with Jim Lampley, and he made a point, too, because the thing about Floyd is he's one of those polarizing figures, sort of like Kobe or LeBron or whoever, who just, their haters and their Richard Riders are both just on the far extreme, and they're both just as irritating. But he made a point that Floyd has picked up on something in terms of like his marketing that he kind of, stole from Roy Jones and took it to another level, which is he's kind of like the picture of someone who's not allowing boxing to take advantage of him, but he's taking advantage of it, meaning that, he picks his fights, he does what he does, and he's not going to let boxing take advantage of him the way it's done some of our great champions of the past, like where they just used them up and threw them away when they were done with them. So he has this huge fan base who just loves the guy who's the rebel without a cause for real. And, so watching the reaction of the fight with everyone is kind of crazy because the haters and the Richard Riders are so far on the extreme, but the fight played out the way that anybody who watches boxing, you don't have to watch a lot of boxing. Anyone who watches a little bit of boxing or any little bit of Floyd fights, you kind of knew how this was going to happen.
I think you have to understand. I think you got to understand boxing to appreciate what Floyd does, as opposed to fighting. Like everybody wants to see Arturo Gatti and Ricky Hatton type fights versus what it is that Floyd does. But go ahead, Dev. You were going to make a point.
No, I said, well, B, that's because boxing, at least the fans of boxing now, boxing has basically been turned over to the casual fans, the people who only want to see a fight when it's a big pay-per-view event and people are going to get together and throw parties and stuff like that. When I go to fight party, that's why I like usually just watching fights by myself in my living room, because fight parties, everybody there is going to have an opinion. Nobody is really going to know what they're talking about.
Opinion that's stupid.
Yeah. So I'm the same thing like you guys. Like this is kind of what I expected. I do think if the fight would have happened some years back, it would have been a little more. I think it would have been a little more competitive. Maybe even a close fight with the results still coming out in Floyd's favor. And I say that because you guys talk about the chances that Manny would have had to take in to try to get past Floyd's defense. I think 5 years ago he would have been more willing to take those chances because he hadn't gotten his boot stretched yet. After getting knocked out cold like that on basically a counterpunch from Marquez, it makes you a little timid to go in there against somebody who might be the best counterpuncher out there. But as far as the fight went, okay, it's a letdown from the masses' expectations, but I don't think the fight was all that bad. And like you said, it's a lot to do with expectations. Like, you don't expect Floyd to go in there and get into some brawling match with somebody. Floyd has this thing where his defense makes great fighters, very good fighters, and in this case, Pacquiao, I guess he's considered makes a great fighter look kind of ordinary. I mean, but like I said last week when people were asking our opinions, I said the fight would have its minutes. You had its moments. It had, in the fourth round, the sixth round, Pacquiao had a couple of flurries in there. I don't think he ever hurt Floyd because a lot of the flurries were landing on his arms, gloves, just not too flush. But he had his moments where he was getting some points. Jimmy, you make a great point when you brought up Bob Ryan's point of Floyd basically mastering Olympic-style boxing. That really could have a lot to do with his psyche because the last time he lost a fight was in the 1996 Olympics.
It was in the Olympics,
so
yeah.
He might have taken that to heart, like, oh, y'all going to, rob me and beat me on that kind of stuff. And it's probably maybe in his subconscious or maybe he consciously made an effort to master that style of boxing, and he hasn't lost since. So,
but what's interesting, Dev, is you made a point that's crazy, Rich, which is like going to fight parties is cool because like the cheap guy in me wants to go to a fight party, not bring anything, maybe a case of beer or contribute $10 and watch the fight. But part of me at this point, I just take the hit in terms of revenue on the chin. Because I can't, it drives me crazy when you're in a fight party and people are talking and they have no clue what they're talking about. They haven't watched a fight in 10 years. Yeah. It makes me so mad that I just like, I'll pay the bread and sit in the crib on a dolo just to like be able to watch it and enjoy and appreciate it.
Think about what y'all are saying.
And it's because people are rooting. It's because people are rooting
interest.
Yeah, because for me, I really haven't had a rooting interest in a boxing match probably since like Mike Tyson. I think I may have rooted for like Oscar De La Hoya a couple times when he was doing it. And I mean, even with Bernard being from Philly, like it's not too many times where he goes into the fight and I'm pressed to see Bernard win the fight. So usually I watch fights in a very objective manner, and when you're at a fight party, I saw it the other night. There was one dude in the room who was a Pac stan or maybe a Floyd hater, because I don't think there are Pac stans in America. I think they're just Floyd haters. And then there was another dude who was a Floyd Richard Rider. And you should, like, the moments when Pac got off, with the Floyd stan was saying, oh, he didn't touch him not once. Like, it was no objectivity. And then when, on the other hand, the dude who was rooting for Pac-Man, he was acting like the moments when Floyd got off a little bit, like he wasn't doing anything. So it's like you blind yourself to what you're actually watching because you want to describe it how you want it to happen, how you want it to play out. And I just can't take that, man.
But a public service announcement real quick. Be Austin, real quick. I want to make a public service announcement, man. Like I know we live in a celebrity
to steal my thunder.
A celebrity obsessed culture. I just want to say one thing, and you can go. It's that. Just because you buy a piece of TMT gear, whether it's a T-shirt or hat, it doesn't make you part of the money team. Because some of y'all was drawing, like, some of y'all was drawing, like, you put the hat on, you feel like, you walking him to the ring, like, the Richard Rider
really on the money
control.
team. If you really on the money team, you would have got a check after that fight, or maybe some cash. You would probably pay them in cash.
Put it like this. The dude that's on the money team for real is not even Floyd. It's Al Heyman, and none of y'all can even tell me what he looks like.
Yo, and Al Heyman,
he look like Uncle Denzel.
Even after the weekend, Al Heyman can buy himself 3 Floyds. But that's neither here nor there. I think that we suffer from the fact that sports is what we do, and a part of our foundation or our charter is to try and show the world how you can watch sports, be entertained, even have a rooting interest, but analyze the beauty of a sport, strategy, tactics, execution, and be objective. I'll tell you honestly, man, I'm a part of the Floyd hater crowd. Real talk. If you've listened back, which you should have, and for 200 years in the future, when you listen to this, as you dig it up out of the earth, I hate Floyd Mayweather. Probably not as a man, I don't know him as a man, but everything he stands for, everything he does, everything I see, I hate him. But in the ring, he's unrivaled in this generation. In the last 10, definitely. In the last 15, probably, most likely. And in the last 20, strong case for being the best fighter that we've seen. And there's no real argument to that. You can be a fan of, I'm not a fan of Pacquiao, but I like him. I wanted him to win. I've rooted against Floyd for 13 years, but objectively, that's objectively, you have to analyze things I'm an Eagles fan, but I poop on them. I'm not going to sit here and blindly throw my allegiance to a team. And I think that the same thing should be said with the way that boxing is watched. Salute to Floyd for the victory. It happened the way we called it over the last half decade.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much. You said it all right there.
I think he's always going to get this disclaimer when people talk about the greatest of all time. Because I don't know if you guys noticed, lately people have been calling him the greatest defensive fighter of all time. I don't think he's ever going to be able to escape that label. Because, I mean, it is, boxing is, I mean, you don't want to get hit. You want to hit and not be hit. But at the same time, there's some pugilist specialists who've come along who just throw those hands like no other. And Floyd, when he swings, he's very accurate because he's always, basically countering off a defensive move. But,
he's
kind of pity-patting you and outpointing you Olympic style, to get the victories, and that has to be respected in its own right. But I don't think he's ever going to skate because I think people have gotten comfortable in that nook. Because first of all, I don't think people want to, call him the greatest of all time or one of the greatest of all time. I think a lot of people are reluctant in doing that. So I think they've gotten comfortable in this little nook of saying, well, he's one of the greatest defensive fighters of all time, so they don't have to all out overall give him that title. Of course, there's some out there who will.
It's funny because one of the things he said on leading up to the fight on that Inside whatever the Showtime show was, he said that people are going to say who they think is the best, and it's, there's all their opinion. He said, but one thing that's not opinion is the record, and that's true because if he finishes 49 or 50-0, because people are going to argue who's the best forever. That's just what it is. Some people will say Tyson, Ali, Sugar Ray Robinson, but the one thing that can't be argued is those records. You know what I mean? Like that.
We can argue those. We can argue those.
You can argue context, but it's still a concrete fact that this is his record. You can say he ain't fight nobody, but this is his record.
And at the same time, nobody's calling nobody, except for probably like 4 white dudes, have ever called Rocky Marciano the greatest boxer of all time.
But guess what? That still comes. His name still comes up in the mix, and the only reason his name is ever mentioned.
The greatest of all time.
I don't hear it that much. I always hear it like at the end, like we Rocky Marciano was undefeated, but there's always a
go to South Philly. Go to South Philly and say that. But the only reason
white boy pull Rocky Marciano out the butt.
But hold on, to be Austin. The only reason he can be mentioned is why. If not for that, he couldn't even be mentioned. That's the only reason he can even be mentioned.
I did a piece and I'll publish it, but I did a piece, man. Look, man, Floyd's record can be dissected. I never say that he's not a great fighter, but the fact that he never chose to go above 147 pounds, except when it was to fight an ancient and old and aging Oscar De La Hoya, or Shane Mosley when Shane shouldn't. He did them dudes a favor and got them paid, not because they were any real threat to him. The fact he didn't go to 154, he didn't go to 160.
Get paid regardless.
Well, hold on. Be awesome, real quick. All I want to say about that is, man, like word to the prophet Bill Parcells, who says you are what your record says you are, and even beyond that, the thing about that thing that bothers me when people bring it up with Floyd. Hold on.
Even that either. I tell y'all that every year when the Arizona Cardinals start out 6-0. I tell y'all that every year. I don't believe that.
Yeah, but they always end up 10-6. But listen though, be often to your point about that whole thing with Oscar and Shane. That's funny. People always bring that up about Floyd, considering they big up Manny, and Manny fought them years after Floyd. So they were old when Floyd fought them. What the hell were they?
But I don't.
I'm not saying you.
Manny.
I didn't say you.
Yeah,
I'm not saying you. But what I'm saying,
I'm not great as ever either.
I'm not saying you. I'm saying in general, people do that. But when you really look at it, like, yo, if they were old when Floyd fought them, what the hell were they? Manny fought them years later.
I totally agree with that. But Jimmy, he ducked Winky Wright, I believe.
No, but listen,
he's not going to fight.
And that's the thing, and it's unfortunate that people do that. But I don't big up Manny to say anything negative about Floyd. Like, I don't, like, one of them, like, people have put them. Do you guys remember before this fight ever happened? I always said, like, it bothered me that one of their names always came up with the other, and they hadn't even fought. It was a contrived rivalry. They never fought. And even now that they have fought, it's still not a rivalry. Frazier versus Ali, that was a rivalry. They did it 3 times. They got in there and did it 3 times.
No, like, I completely agree with you.
In the history of boxing, their names are going to go down together for no damn reason. Like, it took
but Floyd said that himself.
The fight was uneventful.
Floyd said that in the press conference leading to the fight. He said the only reason people know who Manny Pacquiao is because of me. And the thing about it is, it's definitely contrived. He did, of course. That's what he's supposed to do. But it's definitely contrived. I think that I'm a process by saying I think Floyd is a terrible human being. He's probably on the same level as Lawrence Taylor. But like B. Austin said, what he does in the ring is special. But you know, people are missing the big point. They're saying Floyd did this and Floyd did it. Yo, Bob Arum pulled the wool over all of us. He sold us a fight in which a dude who lost 2 out of his last 5 fights, he got knocked unconscious. Manny didn't even deserve this fight.
I agree with that, Jimmy.
He found a way to get $100 million out of a dude that at this point is not even that good.
130. Yeah, I totally.
Whatever he got.
I 100% agree with that. But to Deb's point, when you look at the larger picture and we're talking about greatness, the whole notion that 0 behind Floyd's name makes him great is something that can be sold to the masses who are casual fans, because all the great analysts of the sweet science respect the fact that major fighters took major risks. They fought more frequently, and they weren't afraid to take on challengers that we didn't know whether or not they were going to win. You know, I'm not going to name any names because y'all know who I'm talking about.
Jimmy is
but hold on though.
Right though when he says that he didn't deserve the fight, but you can't put all of that on their side of on their camp.
They both
fight after he lost 2 of his last 5 fights. Like, take the fight before he's out there getting his ass whooped.
Part of that is because he got his ass whooped. I agree with you, because the fact of the matter is he came up financially as well. But the other fact of the matter is the reason they were able to make the fight is because he lost the way he lost. Now he had to give in to some of the demands he was unwilling to, in terms of fighting, in terms of 60-40 split. Like, he had to give in to some of that stuff. Like,
if I'm careful, like Floyd, and I'm using the adjective careful, I ain't gonna go like B. Austin with B. Austin would have called him a coward.
Yeah, we'll call him a female dog.
If I'm careful, like Floyd is, you know, when he's picking his fights, and this big fight that everybody's been trying to push me to for 5 years, and now the dude is in there getting his ass whooped a couple times, like, okay, this is the time I'm going to fight him too, especially when you can still make this kind of payday, when the wool can be pulled over everybody's head. So you got to put that on both sides. You can't just blame it on one person. And I agree with that. One of those losses was kind of bogus. The other one, he
you can say that. But here's the thing, B. Austin. One of the things you said about him being extrapolating, that's one of the reasons why he's such a polarizing figure, like we talked about LeBron, is because he basically has found a way to not let this whole corrupt thing of boxing take advantage of him. He's basically calling the shots, and he's kind of, like I said, a rebel against the boxing system. He has no cause other than to make himself wealthy.
I don't agree with that. The deeper we get into this conversation, the more we're going to divert. I'll give him all the credit in the world for his athleticism and his skill in the ring. But when it comes to
I'm not saying he orchestrated it. But what I'm saying is he has people around him. Of course, it's Al Heyman. But the thing is, you got to put people smarter than you around you. And I mean, that could be anybody with him. But I'm saying, like, I'm not saying he makes these decisions. LeBron doesn't make his decisions either, but he has a team. But what I'm saying, his team has found a way to make this guy the poster child for someone who's not letting boxing take advantage of him, and he's kind of manipulating the sport and doing what he does.
Well, listen, y'all. Moving forward, because there was talk, of course, for his last fight in this contract with Showtime is going to be in September. Everybody's trying to tell him who he should fight at that point. And he also reached out to Stephen A. Smith and said he'd be open to a rematch with Pacquiao. Obviously, that can't happen in September because Pacquiao did have shoulder surgery yesterday, and he's going to be out for a significant amount of time. Jimmy, I heard you talking one time, and you were saying, like, you don't believe that he would stop at 49 anyway. If you're going to get to 49, then you're going to want to get to 50-0, just an even number. You'll break, not just tie, but you'll break Rocky Marciano's record.
There they go. Every time I start talking about boxing, a white man got to pull Rocky Marciano out their ass. That's they won.
So I think I agree with you. Like, why would you stop at 49? But I think that's probably negotiation tactics even before it starts, because somebody's going to pay him huge money to fight that 50th fight, no matter who is against. But if he gets to 49-0, and then that rematch for his 50-0 retirement fight is against Pacquiao again, would you guys be interested in seeing that fight again? Especially since we have what I thought at first was an excuse, and maybe it's not an excuse, the whole shoulder thing, but when you wait till after the fight to say something about it, I look at it more like an excuse, because say something before the fight. Then, you got a built-in excuse going in. Some of the smart excuse makers know that they got to say something beforehand and not afterwards, and then that excuse might fly. Seeing as though now, if he really did go through the operation, then it might be legit, but at the same time, you gotta say something beforehand.
Yo, I see Floyd throwing shade at Pac-Man on Instagram too. So he put a post up saying that he only has one excuse, and that's not to make excuses, because winners win and losers make excuses. Of course, that's a little subliminal. But the thing is this though. I really don't care to see it again, because I think it'll go the same way again. Even if he's 100% healthy, it's the same thing. Pac-Man is a shell of himself. Like, at this point, it'll be another armed robbery where they're going to stick everybody up. And I can't even see them charging the same amount or making the same kind of
same amount of money. Yeah, it wouldn't make the same money.
You know what I'm saying?
I think there's a chance that it would be more exciting, because if Pac-Man, it depends on where he thinks he is, in his career. If he's ready to retire, then he might want to go all out. Like, this is my last big payday. I'm going to go all out. I'm going to throw those 800 punches that I usually throw in a fight, no matter how many this dude duck and dodge. It's possible to me that may have had something to do with his punch output. But it's also possible to me that his punch output may have been stunted, because it's frustrating when you can't hit a dude and you just keep swinging at him. So
here's my thing, right?
It falls somewhere in the middle between an injured shoulder and a frustrated fighter. So, I wouldn't mind seeing it again, because I didn't pay for it the first time. So, I'm not going to.
I don't care to see it again. I don't care to see it again. Shout out to Paulie Malignaggi, who's a commentator. He said about a year and a half ago that, Bob Arum was contracting this whole thing when Pac-Man didn't deserve this fight. And he said exactly how it would go. He said that about a year and a half ago. But the thing is, there's some young fighters that are up and coming that they have say he gets his fight in September, then that means you have a year to kind of build somebody up. And boxing is good at building somebody up. You have a great fight coming up this weekend with Canelo Alvarez and James Kirkland. And Alvarez is an exciting, amazing fighter. He only has one loss, and his one loss is to Floyd. But he fought Floyd when he was fairly young. That's another trick that Floyd pulls. And instead of fighting them when they are old, he fights them when they're too young. But but you can build that. But you can build that up, though. If he's able to beat Kirkland, you know what I mean? Like, he only has one loss, and he's been knocking everybody else out but Floyd. You can build that up. I would rather see him, who's coming more into his prime, or even a Kirkland, who's fighting to stay out of jail. But he also has an amazing record, and he also knocking people's blocks off. Shot at 50 Cent because he's one of 50 fighters. But I would like to see, like, someone like that build up, or even Danny Garcia, even though I know he's not ready yet. But still, like, there's some young, exciting fighters that I wouldn't mind seeing. Even his young bull.
That you want to see Floyd fight?
Absolutely.
See, I'm gonna be honest, man, and our boxing expert of the team is not present. But analyzing some of those fighters, it's I don't want to say it's fluff. Danny Garcia, we support him. Hashtag PSP Philly support Philly. Love to see him get it in. Pause. But he's not athletic enough to fight Floyd.
No. I said Kirkland or Canelo. I said Kirkland or Canelo to fight Floyd.
Okay. Got you.
Kirkland or Canelo, and they fight each other. As a matter of fact, they fight each other this Saturday. HBO got the right to show the replay of the Floyd Manny fight, and they actually scheduled a real live fight, and then they're going to show that fight. So, you can rewatch Pac May if you want to, or just, the Kirkland Canelo fight will be on HBO this weekend. So, And speaking of that, one thing I got to say about this whole boxing pay-per-view paying $100, why can't you give us any better, like, undercard fights, yo?
Yeah, if we are going to pay $100, then the undercard should be some pretty big names as well.
Yeah, there should be some belts on the line for the undercard.
Floyd said that he said he want Pacquiao to fight in his next undercard. But
shade or no?
He was trying to
shade or no?
No, but at least the undercard. You can give us like an Adrian Broner fighting somebody good in an undercard.
These NBC cards they had, they've been having two good fights every time NBC had it. Shout out because that's Al Heyman in charge of that too. But it's like, you got to give us a better undercard. If you look at the Klitschko fight that was a week before, like Klitschko he's a heavyweight champion in the world, and he couldn't even sell out Madison Square Garden. They could have just moved that over to the undercard. Well, I know it's like embarrassing if you're the heavyweight champ.
I'm not even speaking off the knowledge because I didn't even watch him because there was a hell of a Game 7 going on. I almost missed the beginning of the real fight because I wouldn't leave and it almost went to overtime, so I was about to be short. But
undercards were kind of weak, yo. They were weak sauce, man. Like, they were definitely weak. It was a bunch of no-name. Like, I'm just saying, like, Klitschko fought. Klitschko, he can't sell out like Central High's gym. Like, they could have just pushed into the undercard of the Floyd fight. But I guess it's embarrassing being the heavyweight champion in the world and you in the undercard. But still, like, the promoters got to give us a better card, though. B, like, you can't just like put a bunch of nonsense up and then have the main event. Like, that's whack.
All right, well let's talk about this draft a little bit because we got Fred Perdue waiting. Everybody out there, if you're on the line holding the talk, just bear with us because we started really late. We had some technical difficulties, so we're going to try to get to you, but we have to get our guests on the line to talk a little bit about the NFL draft and what happened last weekend with that. So let's go to Fred Perdue. Fred, you there?
What's going on, fellas? How y'all doing? What's up, Fred?
CollegeFootballExtra.com. We got Fred Perdue in the house to talk a little. Yeah, to give him his post-draft report. He's going to tell us what he saw, what happened, who had the best drafts, who had the worst drafts, and who might be an impact rookie to look out for. So let's jump right into that, Fred. Like, who did you think had the best drafts?
Cheating-ass Patriots?
Can I just say this is going to come completely out of left field? You will say, why? What am I smoking? What am I drinking? I'm not on the soft. I'm not on the good stuff. It's 420 is it today? None of that. I gave the Jacksonville Jaguars an A+ draft, and I also gave the Cleveland Browns a B+ draft.
Well, Fred, you can't be too surprised about Jacksonville. If you always got great picks, you can't mess them up too often. You got to get it right sometimes.
In the words of Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. Because we've had bad picks. The Raiders have had great picks for years, and they still just screw them up.
Well, you notice I said Jacksonville. I didn't say the Raiders or Cleveland because they usually mess them up no matter what. Jacksonville, All right,
This
so
is true.
you think Jacksonville? Let's go around. Tell us some more people you think had some drafts that may have stood out from the others.
The Jets nailed it big time. They went and got Leonard Williams, fell all the way to 7. I mean, that's hard to do. I mean, when you have a guy that was projected to be a number 1 or 2 pick, and he fell perfectly to the Jets, and the Jets did exactly what they were supposed to do: draft the best player available. You have a replacement for Muhammad Williams if he decides to leave or they trade him. And if you keep him, well, you have one of the best defensive line and probably the best defense in football. If Geno Smith comes around, he might play. He just might make them. Okay, I'm going a little far there. But you have teams. You also have teams like Washington who hit it perfectly. When you have Brandon Scherf, you need players to protect RG3. He's gonna run outside the pocket and get hit anyway. At least if he's in the pocket, you know he's protected. You also have T.J. Yeldon from the Jacksonville Jaguars, who was in a rotation at Alabama, and for some odd reason, Alabama running backs tend to be a little bit worse in the NFL, but this may be a little different because he had a chance. He reminds me a lot of Le'Veon Bell, actually. He runs upright a little bit, but he's a lot more athletic than you think when you're a little bit bigger, 6 foot, 6'1". You got some size to you, 220. You got a little speed to you. He has a wiggle. We call it a little wiggle. I really like what he brought to the table. And Rashad Green, again, Jacksonville. Rashad Green from Florida State, Jameis Winston's biggest target. Jameis threw a lot of picks throwing it to Rashad Green, but Rashad Green, the all-time leading receiver at Florida State, he doesn't separate well, but you put him in the slot, put him up against a lesser corner, you got a good player there. And Trey Jackson from Florida State again, going to the New England Patriots. Rick Trickett, the Florida State offensive line coach, said the Patriots are the only team that knows how to use his linemen, and that's why he's happy every lineman that he sends to the NFL goes to the Patriots.
Well, let me ask you something real quick, Fred, before you get far away from them, because we have a lot of listeners in the Washington, D.C. area, and you spoke of Washington nailing it. I agree that Washington had a very good draft. Just one question, though, about their first pick, about Scherf. Do you think they may have reached for him at 5? Do you think they could have possibly – and I'm not saying that they didn't. They may have tried and just was unsuccessful. But do you think they should have tried to maybe trade back a few spots just to get a little something extra and still be able to grab their man? Because I'm thinking if you weren't going to pick Williams, you had to know with him sliding that far down the board that he had to be one of the next guys taken. So maybe stick the Jets up for a couple late round picks or something just to switch so they make sure they get their guy and you can still get Scherf, at 6, 7, or 8 maybe. That's the only thing I think. I think they got great personnel for what they need, but I just think with their first pick, they may have been able to maybe move down a few spots and still get their man.
Maybe, but probably not, because Scherf was one of the, at least if not the top rated lineman, a guy that could have been in that discussion as 1 or 2. And when you have a guy that can, if Trent Williams decides to leave or they don't extend his contract, you got a guy that can play left tackle, he can play right tackle, he can play inside. And when you go, you can't really go wrong with an Iowa lineman. Go back throughout the last probably 10 years or so, every Iowa lineman turns out to be pretty good. Now, granted, right, NFL injuries are something that you can't plan for. But when you look at guys like Riley Reef and Brian Bulaga, who play all across their offensive lines respectively, you see consistency. And that comes down from a guy like Kirk Ferentz, who's the coach at Iowa.
Dev, I'm actually going. This is B. I'm actually going to agree with you because not many had Scherf going in the top 6, top 7. I saw his name more around 8 through 10, 8 through 11. So while I do think that DC did a great job, I think that would have been the highly intelligent play would have been to make the Jets move up because they were that thirsty to do so. And I think they had their eyes on the other thing that they maybe could have done was actually take Williams, because I think that DC needs as much help on the D line as it does the O line. because they don't get a lot of pass rush. And
I know I was surprised that they didn't take him, B. That's why I was saying if you weren't going to take him, then stick the next team up for him. You know what I mean? Like, because I just knew. I'm like, dang, he fell right into their laps, and he ended up not falling to their laps. He fell right into the Jets' laps. So that's why I asked Fred that in the first place, because once he made it past, the pick before them, I'm figuring there's no way that Washington isn't about to take him, and then they didn't take him. So I'm like, okay, if you didn't take him, you have to know that one of the next two teams is going to take this guy. So stick them up, get you a late round pick or so. But, it must have been like their guy, the guy that they wanted, so they didn't want to take any chances with doing anything to mess it up. Fred, give us some of the bad draft classes out there. And we all know this is subjective because you really can't judge a draft class until maybe 3 years afterwards. But just, from first look, like, who left you scratching your head a little bit?
Oh, this is very easy. Very easy. Carolina Panthers, Shaq Thompson going 25 overall. I started scratching my head when I heard the name, and I'm sitting here like, okay, you got a guy that plays safety, outside linebacker, and running back, and he's all of about 5'11", and he's maybe 215. I know Thomas Davis worked for that, and that's nice and all, but Shaq Thompson was really more of a second, maybe a third round guy. They could have done a lot of different stuff without Cam Newton on the line, maybe instead of going after Cameron Artine, a big college transfer in the late rounds. I really didn't like the pick of Donovan Smith from Penn State for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was a top guy, but most people, they don't know his name because he's from Penn State, and Penn State hasn't been in the forefront of college football lately. But Mario Edwards was the biggest one. He was the number 1 overall pick out of high school as a recruit going to Florida State. Never really lived up to anything. His dad actually played for the Cowboys in the early 90s, believe it or not. How does a kid that was born in 92 end up with his dad playing with the Cowboys? Well, these NFL players, they get busy real early, right? But his weight fluctuated at Florida State throughout his time there. He really didn't play all that well, didn't really have much production. I think it was more of a potential reach because when he's on, but he's more times off than he is on. And Randy Gregory for the Dallas Cowboys, America's so-called America's team. The America's team lives in New England, but that's rather here nor there.
America is known for cheating. I can see that.
But Randy Gregory is the ultimate boomer bust prospect. But I think with that, the thing is, I think Dallas had to know that Randy Gregory had to be their guy, and they had to put a handler on him, similar to how they did Dez Bryant. But I still don't like the pick. Go get somebody in the secondary. Go get somebody at linebacker. Maybe go help out the offensive line. Go get Dez Bryant a running mate, or go get you one of those high-rated running backs that are out there. I mean, there's so many weapons. If you're going to be an offensive team, say the hell with the defense at least until the later rounds and just do it like Peyton Manning did it. Have a great offense, outscore everybody, and hopefully that last possession you get an interception, right?
All right, so real quick,
I wanted to touch on that Shaq Thompson pick. I think that's a great point as being a garbage pick that high. No disrespect to him. I think he could turn into a great player, but he's a tweener. He's not a safety, and he's not a linebacker in the NFL. So what can he do, and where does he play?
Exactly. He can play on. You can put him in those sub packages on third down, passing down. You can blitz him. You can almost treat him like a Tyrann Mathieu, I guess. But at the same time, it's like if he's rushing on the outside to get around the edge, or you're gonna have to do something really creative to get him open, or are you just gonna put him in a zone and say just stay an area?
Okay. Real quick, Fred, because we actually want you to stick around for some of the other NFL topics that we're going to have. So give us a couple more dudes that you think might, be some impact rookies. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the atmosphere out in Chicago, and then we got some other NFL stuff that you need to stick around for.
Most definitely. Guys that can impact And these are mid-round guys. I'm not going to give you any first-round players. I may give you one or two, but really and truly, Carl Davis, a defensive lineman out of Iowa, yet another Iowa player, going to the Ravens, who tend to pick up really good players throughout their draft. He's a very good defensive lineman. Didn't really show off at the combine, but most Iowa guys don't. Clive Walford, Miami tight end. He's 6'4". Raiders did a really good job as well, getting a lot of offensive weapons and helping out Derek Carr. Desmond Lewis, one of the later round picks for the Buffalo Bills. They don't really need receivers, but when you have a guy like him who can come on the back end of a roster, have no real pressure, maybe make some plays on the return game, special teams. It's not a flashy pick, but when you have a guy that can really just kind of make some plays and do his work quietly and then surprise some people, and then they say, hey, I knew who Desmond Lewis was when he becomes somebody, and he may not be. But Bernardrick McKinney, linebacker out of Mississippi State, really like what he's going to be able to do in the run game for the Houston Texans, helping out Brian Cushing, who God knows he can't stop the run, and he can't stay healthy either. And last but not least, Lyle Collins, offensive lineman from LSU going to the Cowboys. He wasn't drafted. He was signed by the Cowboys today after the murder suspect, with air quotes, murder suspect, and he wasn't involved in
double murder.
Okay, double.
That's a steal for the Cowboys.
Great pick by the Cowboys to pick up with him.
It's a steal for America's team.
Definitely, it was a big time pick.
So they stealing. They got a double murderer potentially, allegedly, and they got a guy that beats up. Yo, Jerry Jones is really knocking it out of the park right now.
And I got one more player. I got one more player. This name I kind of have mixed feelings about him, but I think he's going to be pretty good for the Saints. Aloy Kikaka. I think there's going to be a nice little camp about him. Of line, I don't know where. Last name. He's a linebacker from Washington. Played along Denny Shelton, who ended up with the Browns, who had a good draft as well. But he's going to be a nice little add-on to that team. They can't stop the pass at all, and they can't get to any quarterback. Well, help has arrived.
All right, so real quick, full disclosure to everybody listening out there. We do this, but of course we all have teams that we root for personally. Fred is a New England Patriots fan. B. Austin and I are both Philadelphia Eagles fans. Jimmy's a Denver Bronco fan. Briefly, fellas, just give me your thoughts. Do you think, how do you think your personal teams did in the draft? Fred, I can start with you. How do you think New England did?
They hit it out the park in the first round. The rest of the way, you got a bunch of special teamers, guys that can contribute. But this is typical Belichick. He's going to coach guys up.
Right. Jimmy, how do you think the Broncos did?
I guess I could say we did okay. Only time will tell. I hate judging the draft. I just hate doing that because
that's why I like.
You can get it.
You don't have to give grades or nothing.
Yeah, I just think. If Shane Ray turns out, the guy was supposed to be a top 10 pick, and we got him, a lot later. So, with that being said, I think if that works out, it could be a steal. But
y'all ain't get him in the fourth. Y'all ain't get him in the fourth, like Austin said. I was listening to the show.
Yeah, B. Austin was drawn.
Yeah. Jimmy co-signed. He co-signed and followed me
down that rabbit hole. So, what do you think about the Eagles draft? Like personally, I just think it was pretty good. Nothing special. Nothing bad. Nothing to complain about.
I'm gonna go ahead and grade it and give it a B+. Had Chip, the ego, Kelly going ahead and done the deal as he was trying, and we know he was trying. I would have given it an F, but Nelson Aguilar is an NFL ready starter from day one. So anytime you get a starter,
did it surprise you that he went wide receiver in that defense on the first pick? Everybody had them taking a D-back in the first round.
No, because I think that they're trying to follow suit to what Seattle has done in the defensive backfield and how they get their DBs. So I wasn't surprised. I thought it was okay to take the receiver. Of the later rounds when they got Rowe, they got a couple coverage guys. they addressed the issues from a positional standpoint, and the way they did that was going ahead and plugging guys in their little computer system to get folks that have the metrics and measurables. I actually give the later rounds. I give them a B+. I think they did a good job in addressing what the needs are. They went after a couple linebackers. The D line, the front four is pretty set, pretty solid. And you know, I was
tried to trade them away too for you, man. Yeah. And you know, I had it on good authority because I don't know. I know Jimmy and B told everybody during the show last week that I was actually out in Chicago for draft festivities and hadn't been out there since Tuesday. You know, just being a part of that media frenzy and getting as much information as we possibly could and doing the whole networking thing to push this movement forward. But the deal was definitely because, of course, Chip Kelly, you know, he denied afterwards and tried to act like he just looked at the house and didn't make any offers on the house and all that analogy that he used. The deal was real. Jay Glazer was speaking when I was down because the Courtyard Marriott was one of the sponsors of Blogs with Ball 6. Shout out to them too, who, you know, so they sent us to Drafttown to their little booth, and Jay Glazer was at their booth, and he was talking and being honest, and the deal was definitely real, and the deal was turned down. So FOH to Chip Kelly. But I just want to give a shout out to Chicago because the atmosphere there was crazy. I'm not generally a big draft guy. Like, I'm one of those people, I get alerts on my phone, you know, we have contacts in the media, we have each other, so we always know basically what's going on. So I'm not the type of dude who's going to buy some wings, some pizza, and some beer and sit in front of the TV for 3 days watching the NFL draft. That's just not me. But being
not down with the Richard lottery
while the draft is going on shows you how much football is really king. Chicago set up damn near a city inside their city. They took a great portion of Grant Park and put in there what they call Draft Town, and it was actually free to the fans, a lot of interactive stuff. They had these corridors, these rows with all the teams' divisions, and each team had their own booth where you can go in there and take pictures and do interactive things. They had different spots where you could take a photo with the Lombardi Trophy. You can get autographs from former and current players. It was just everything going on at once. And, of course, they had the pro shop and other things that you could buy lined up everywhere, so they made millions and millions of dollars. But it shows how much the NFL is king because probably out of the hundreds of thousands of people who walked through Draft Town the 3 days that it was there, probably 1% of those people actually had tickets to get into the actual draft. So people traveled because I saw jerseys, fellas. I didn't see a team that wasn't represented out there, you know, by fans when I was walking around Draft Town. Football is king because people just fly into the city where the draft is going on just to be around it, just to be a part of it, even if they're not going to it. And I find that, like, that's amazing. It's a draft. Like, maybe I'm so shocked because I'm just not into it like that. I know people are into the draft like that, but on that scale, it was definitely a surprise. But shout out to Chicago. I don't really have anything to compare it to because I've never been to the draft in New York, but it seemed like they did a pretty good job, relatively speaking. The atmosphere was amazing down there. So let's get into some other NFL stuff. And like I said, shout out to the Blogs with Balls 6 as well and all the media members that took time out from the draft festivities to come by there and network a little bit. Deflategate. And we had to keep Fred on the line for this. His New England Patriots, the Wells Report came out, and the language that they're using was kind of crazy because they were saying that, what's the term that they use? It's more probable than not that the Patriots did deflate the balls, and Tom Brady was, quote unquote, generally aware of inappropriate activity. So it sounds like the Wells Report was afraid to just go all out and say, yeah, they cheated and Tom Brady's a cheater. So they used this type of language. What are your guys' thoughts on this whole thing? Because the argument going on in the media through with the fans right now is, well, this deflating some balls is not a big deal. Some people are saying, well, it is a pretty big deal. Where do you guys fall within that mix?
I think that it's amazing when you look at the Tuck Rule, Spygate, Deflategate. Like, Fred's team are just a bunch of cheaters. But with that being said, right, I think we all can agree they're cheaters, right? But here's the thing, Fred, and I'm about to give you team
Fred
props.
Might not
like,
agree.
yo,
Fred might not agree.
he should agree. You can't argue the truth, Fred. You guys are cheaters. But listen though, if my team, I want my team to cheat this way, yo. Like, yo, if you tell me we can deflate some footballs and we can win a championship, and then you want to take draft picks or spin it, I'm cool with that because the odds of us repeating back to back are kind of slim to none anyway. Give me the chip. So for me, like, I find it amazing, specifically when reading the text messages and looking at some parts of the report, the fact that Brady and Belichick were like so obsessed with winning that they're willing to like just they don't leave anything uncovered, like, or unturned. Like, they're looking at deflating ball. They try to get any advantage possible. So I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I kind of admire that. But the fact of the matter is, you're still cheating. I mean, you know what I mean? So it's a couple ways to look. It's a couple ways to look at it. But I know where you're going with this deal. But I'm telling you from my personal opinion, like, someone's that obsessed with winning. Like, I wish that was my team that was that obsessed with winning, that they were willing to do these things. And, you know, I would take a championship in a heartbeat for some suspensions and all these things.
Yeah,
and I don't
no
care
matter
about
what the penalty, no matter how severe the penalty,
they're not taking the chip.
You can't take away the chip. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And you give me the chip, but I don't care the integrity of the game. FOH, like, yo, you talk about a game where you get paid to like knock other people unconscious. So FOH is the whole other thing. So
my biggest issue really is the statement that Jimmy laid out, which is not the deflating of the footballs in and of itself. It's the pathological culture of disrespect and cheating to the game and the integrity of the actual game itself, when you put together the fact that they've had multiple instances of cheating. Actually deflating balls, the reason that's not a big deal to me is it's easier to catch a deflated football. So defenders I don't see the offense gaining an advantage that the defense doesn't have.
That don't make no sense. That don't make no sense because they're not throwing the ball to the defenders. When you throw it to a defender, that's a mistake.
Now we on the,
you know what I'm saying?
Man, it's funny you said that because
you're not running routes to throw it to the defender.
It's easier to catch.
It's easier to
but
catch,
you're not
and the
throwing
ball
it to them.
In a sense, you are, because when the quarterback has the ball, he's having to put more force on the ball because it is deflated. Try throwing an inflated football and see how far it goes versus throwing a deflated football and see how much harder you have to throw it to get it to go where you're trying to get it to go. And you're trying to get this ball to go, 15, 20 yards into a small window. When
we talk about deflated balls, it's not like we're talking about them just flattening the joints. They're taking some air off of it. Like, having some experience throwing a football, I think for me, I can see the advantage because, just speaking for myself, I have smaller hands. So the easier it is for me to grip the ball, the easier it is for me to throw it. When a ball is fully inflated, I think it's a little more difficult. I don't know what size hands Tom Brady has, but I don't agree with what y'all are saying, but that it doesn't give the offense a benefit. It damn sure gives them a benefit because, the defense, it might be easier for them to catch, and that's why DeQuell Jackson actually caught the ball and they found out that the ball was, not right. But at the same time, you don't draw up X's and O's to throw the ball to the other team. So how many times is Tom Brady going to actually throw the ball to the other team, whether the ball is inflated, deflated, or whatever? So I don't really think that's a great analogy because, 60% of the time he's completing the pass to his people. So it's giving them an advantage because when he's throwing it right to you, it's easier for you to hands the ball and catch it. Now, if you look at some of the numbers, the fumble numbers that have gone on since like 2007, because I don't know if you guys remember, but Tom Brady and Peyton Manning were the guys who lobbied and actually had the rule in the NFL change where each team can bring their own footballs to the game. It used to be that the home team supplied all of the balls. Tom Brady was a big proponent for changing this rule up. And, you know, I was trying to let somebody know earlier how much power certain people in the league wield. I mean, somebody actually had the nerve to call Tom Brady a foot soldier, basically trying to excuse him from anything negative. I'm like, come on, Tom Brady is, you know, it's been a long time since Tom Brady has been a foot soldier. I know of 2 NFL rules that he specifically got changed, and this is one of them. So for people to sit here and say it's not a big deal, I've heard people say because they deflated some balls for one half of one game. Man, if you think the Patriots deflated balls for one half of one game, I got some beachfront property in Boise, Idaho that I can sell you right now.
Well, no, that's a good point. How long were they doing this?
It's all a matter of when you get caught. It's a matter of when you get caught.
They probably were deflating balls during Spygate.
Listen, Jimmy, you're laughing, but when you think about it, I'll send you guys this article, but there's some data out there of how after the 2007 season and on, the Patriots just generally stopped fumbling the ball altogether. It's not like they've had superstar running backs. They just stopped fumbling the ball. And if you think that
there's a little caveat in all of that, there's a guy named Ben Jarvis, Greg Ellis, who never he fumbled once in about 5 years. That has a little to do with it.
And Fred, that's pretty easy to do when you can grip the ball a little harder than everybody else.
Listen, man. All I can say is, Fred, don't get defensive.
I'm just saying, don't get defensive. Because like Jimmy said, nobody here is condemning them, because anybody here who has a rooting interest wishes that our team was savvy enough to bend the rules, win championships, and then get a slap on the wrist and then do it again because you don't give a damn. You know what I'm saying? So we're not condemning them. But I'm just saying there are benefits to what they're doing. They're not doing it for no reason. They're benefits.
Yeah, Fred. That's why I said, Fred, let's just admit they're cheating, right? But don't take this the wrong way. Like, yo. They're cheaters. No, they're cheaters. Listen, though, here's the thing about it, though.
Ben Jarvis is carrying the same deflated balls. That's why he ain't fumbling.
I respect Belichick Belichick lives in the gray area, and sometimes he crosses over. Like, sometimes he just goes too far. But he lives within that gray area anyway. Look at the whole thing with the formations this past year. Like, my man is trying everything under the sun to get an advantage. Like, he generally comes into games with teams with less talent than some other teams. But he does he leaves no stone unturned. My man is deflating balls, taping practices. Like, he's doing anything he can to get an advantage. Like, I know I sound crazy, but I respect that. I'm one of these people that root for the bad guys, man, so I can't help but I wish he was my coach. Like, I really do. Like, I'm kind of jealous of y'all, Fred. I'm not even jealous of the fact that y'all win championships, and I would love that. But the fact that you got somebody that's willing to, like, just take it that far.
I'm like this. When I come around when I say, I'm like this. When I say the Patriots do just enough, but at the same time, it's like everyone else was probably trying the same things too. Spygate, I'm pretty sure there was someone else.
No, stop it. Stop it. You're taking the wrong approach. You're taking the wrong approach, right?
Look, the Patriots are the ones that got dimed on. They're the ones who got caught. Let's not point the speculative finger everywhere else. You're trying to play the victim. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
You're taking the wrong approach. Fred, we're giving you game right now. We're giving you game. Stop taking that approach.
He's not, and Jimmy, he's not alone. He's not alone because I have so many Patriots fans on my timeline, and they're so defensive. And it seems like on my particular timeline, they bring it up more than anybody else, and they always want to go on a rant about everybody hating on the Patriots. If I were them, I would be on my I don't give a damn joint. Check the parade. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would post photos of me at the parade.
Both sides, though. I'm on both sides of the argument because I'm on one side, yes, we've gotten multiple championships off of it. At the same time, it's very annoying to hear it when you see the same people. They're the fans, whether it was it's Spygate, Bountygate, Deflategate. By the way, shout out to Gronk's Deflate Bees. You know what?
Y'all got a lot of gates.
Got him.
Y'all got a lot of gates, yo. Y'all got a lot of gates.
I mean, Bountygate wasn't part of. We weren't a part of that. We had nothing. I had nothing against that. I had nothing to do with that one. But you know, it's great until someone else gets caught, and then when your team gets caught, then you don't want to say anything. So you know.
No, but my thing is like you're taking the wrong approach.
Hey Jim, everybody I talk to who does admit that they're cheating, they always try to, give Tom Brady an out. Well, you can't blame Brady, because somebody asked about his legacy today. I don't think his legacy can basically be changed, not as a winner, but he definitely can go down as a cheater. You cheat as a team, you get caught as a team,
man.
And somebody tried to excuse him from Spygate. Like, well, he didn't have anything to do with Spygate. Well, wait, if you're recording defensive signals, who's the first person you're going to run to give those signals to? So he took them, he used them. So I ain't trying to hear that Tom Brady is innocent. That's my dude, and he's going to the Hall of Fame. But Tom Brady is a cheater. Bottom line.
Listen, man, I respect Tom Brady, man. Like, the fact of the matter is, he's trying to win games, man. Like, Fred, you're taking a complete wrong approach, man. Like, again, now I may be in the minority because I'm also the kind of guy that'll watch Batman and root for the Joker because I think he's trying to make the world a better place while fighting out hypocrisy. And while I'm at it, man, free Wilson Fisk, man. Free Wilson Fisk. But listen, man, you got to take the right approach.
Before you go any further on that, I got on Daredevil, man, and I'm hooked.
I told you. See, I told you.
But I'm hooked. I'm hooked.
See, I told you.
Can I get a
my point is, Fred, that my point is this, that like you guys have won. You're consistently good. Like, they're not taking the ball away. No matter what happens, they may take draft picks. They may suspend you. They're not taking the ball away. And the odds of you guys are going back-to-back were slim anyway. It's so difficult to go back-to-back in the NFL. So, listen, man, take the championship, man, and stop being defensive about it. You guys cheated and you guys won. Congratulations.
Hey, well, Fred, look, man, because we got like 8 minutes, and we got to try to get a little bit. The NBA playoffs are going on, so we'll continue this, man. We got to do some field vision work.
Absolutely.
So let everybody know how they can get in touch with you online, and then we'll try to get this going on Field Vision or something.
You guys can always catch me at collegefootballextra.com. Got a new article up there. Way too early to tell. Top 10, still going strong. By the way, Notre Dame quarterback Everett Golson, he's gone. So we got an article up about that. Go check that out. You can always check me on Twitter at College Football Extra and at FPD Sport. Always talking football. Always talking draft. College football. If it has a football in it, I'm doing it. It's not deflated though, but you know.
No doubt. And y'all can always catch him at warroomsports.com. Go to the network, click on the War Room. He's on this show basically every week talking about something. And you can also click on the War Room Sports TV tab and catch him on Field Vision talking more football. So thanks for joining us, Fred, and we will talk to you later, bud.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
All right.
Take it easy.
All right. So, all right. So, stat of the week, real quick, before Jimmy take us through a lightning round of NBA playoff news. Stat of the week is about the NFL draft, and there were 7 quarterbacks taken in the NFL draft last week. You know, it's 256 picks in the draft. This is the fewest number of quarterbacks taken since 1955, when there were only 6 taken. And there's a lot of pundits out there who are, blaming this trend, if it's going to be a trend, on spread offenses and, the fact that running quarterback might not be that important coming in the years to come. And you guys were talking about that a few weeks ago. So that's another topic that we're going to have to hit another time, but it's a big topic. So we're going to make sure we get back to that.
Absolutely.
So let's go out talking a little bit of NBA playoffs, man. What's going on in the NBA?
NBA basketball. Let's talk some basketball, which is brought to you by Fanatics. Go to warroomsports.com, click on the Fanatics logo, shout out to them. Working on some things with them to make it even bigger and better. But, get some gear. Fanatics right at warroomsports.com. Let's talk basketball, gentlemen.
Let's do that.
Just want to give a quick shout to Steph Curry, who is our most valuable player, as we predicted. Many of us thought that the Bear will win, but like we said, like I told you guys on our video, like the Bear probably should have won, but Steph Curry was going to get it. Shout out to Del Curry. We'll see what happens with them in the playoffs, but that's our most valuable player.
Daddy. All right, shout out to Steph, man. One quick thing about that, Jimmy. It's amazing to me. His story is kind of amazing to me because, 4 years ago, whenever he came into the league, everybody, including us, we were just trying to guess. Nobody was hating or anything. We were trying to guess and see if his game would translate over to the NBA, because at the time in college, small college, he was a great shooter. His handle wasn't like it is now. He was a tweener. You knew that maybe he could score some points, but he was too small to play the two guard. He wasn't really a point guard, but look at him now. Hard work pays off, and he's your 2014-15 NBA MVP. I think it's amazing. Shout out to Steph.
Yo, man. One thing I gotta say is this though, man, about the MVP. Y'all gotta chill with these long ass speeches. Like either that or we need some
Kevin
more.
Durant started
we need
that.
Some more. Yeah, LeBron. Actually, I look back at it, Dad. LeBron did. LeBron was the first one to literally give all. And LeBron, of course, once LeBron does it, everybody does it. But LeBron was the one that starts giving each individual player on his team a little story and a little blurb. So now everybody does
gotta
it.
Follow.
Yeah, and it's kind of irritating.
You know what it reminds me of? How the Patriots started running the whole team out in the Super Bowl instead of getting the individual. Now everybody's doing that now. Like, yo, I'm at the Super Bowl.
Y'all gotta chill.
My name.
The MVP speech was literally a half hour, yo. Like they're like it was a half hour, so it was out of control. So y'all gotta chill with that, man.
Allen Iverson was like, yo, thank y'all. Let's get this party started. Peace.
Yo, that's what I was gonna say, Devin. Another problem we got is we got guys that are a little bit articulate winning the award too, because Derrick Rose won. And his wasn't that long just because my man ain't feel like sitting up there talking that whole time. But yo, man,
shout to Steph Curry. Taking the SAT. He didn't feel like taking.
And the funny part, the funniest part is LeBron, KD, and Steph Curry all together, man. When they get to the players that really don't get that much clock, they talk about how man, you're an integral part of the team and you're a hard worker. It's the same thing. Like just basically tell them you're a bum.
10-day contract up and down from the D League.
You're a class act. You go all out. But anyway, shout out also to Jimmy Butler, who won the most improved player, and Jimmy Butler definitely deserved that. Watching them play, I think that he might be more important than Derrick Rose, but Derrick Rose go through spurts where he tries to play hero ball. Jimmy Butler is that guy now, man. He basically looked at Derrick Rose, man.
Hey, look at me, sure. Look at me, sure. I'm the captain now.
So shout out to Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is the captain now. Shout out to hey, look at me. Look at hey.
Why look at me. Scream like that though? He was like right in front of his face.
It was like 2 feet in front of him. Hey, I'm the captain now. He's about to lay these hands on my man Captain Source. Anyway, we got a couple minutes, so I can't go into every series, man.
Hands, chump.
Right, give him those hands. We got a couple minutes left, man. So I just have to put it out like this: Devin, B. Austin, each. What is one thing that is standing out to you thus far in these NBA playoffs?
Well, first of all, go ahead, B.
Yo, Houston. Yo, y'all need more people, man. Y'all got in this next round and y'all turned into plums. I mean, I know you won that game last night and came back against the Clippers, but you got to play better defense. And Memphis cannot beat the Warriors with Mike Conley, let alone without him.
But shout out to Mike Conley and the obvious impact that his presence make, because 2 years ago we were on here straight crapping on Mike Conley, and he has basically proved himself to prove B. Austin wrong, because he tweeted at him. He to prove him wrong, he has improved, and I mean they're tied up with the number 1 seed. But and I think it has a lot to do with him being able to play in that game. Shout out to the Clippers for a hell of a Game 7 win against the Spurs, because I did pick them to lose that series in 6 games, and they ended up winning. the Chris Paul injury, that's big, of course, and the series is tied 1-1 now. But I agree with Doc Rivers because before Game 2, I was saying since you stole that first game, I would give Chris Paul another rest. So basically, I would have done the same thing. He wouldn't come back to play until we actually lost a game, especially since you went on the road and stole one. So now you still go back
home stole Game 2
to play 2. Yeah. So, they're in a pretty good position. Washington may be in trouble. Beal hurt the ankle, but he played a very good game in Game 2. There was a report today that John Wall has like 5 non-displaced fractures in his hand, and it's possible. They're not saying for sure. It's possible he's out for the series. So there's a few injuries that are changing the face of the playoffs, and we could have some teams in the finals this year that we just didn't expect because of it.
Yeah, my brief analysis of the playoffs so far is it looks like the Clippers have gotten a boost of confidence after knocking off the world champ. So we would never know where they'll go. But overall, I think that it's going to be an amazing final just because when I look at the teams left, the team that most recently won a championship is like the Bulls, and that was damn near 20 years ago. You got teams like the Warriors who haven't won since the mid-'70s. The Wizards, who's never won as the Wizards, and they won as the Bullets like damn near in the 70s. You got like 4 teams that's never won a championship ever. So it's going to be amazing for some city. One of these cities is going to come up and get a championship, and that'll be great to see. And also, it'll be like the first time in 20 years that like D. Wade, Kobe, or Tim Duncan is not in the final. So just that'll be interesting. So we got some new blood winning a chip. But it's time for us to get out of here, man. Thanks for joining us again, the War Room, good people. Shout out to everybody in the chat room, Facebook, Twitter, anybody who called to chime in and we couldn't get to you. We apologize. We had technical difficulties, but, check us out next week, man. Same time, same place. Special thanks to Fred Perdue for joining us to talk NFL draft as well as just some football. You can catch us live next week, same place, or on the WRS Podcast Network. We'll check back on NBA playoffs and discuss everything in the world of sports. So until then, enjoy your week. We'll see you right back here. Catch our conversations on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our blogs, webcasts, and network podcasts. Go to warroomsports.com to get all that information. Until next time, everybody, don't accept mediocrity. Be steadfast in the war against ignorance, and we'll see you chumps on top.
Jumps on top!
Hey!
6 to 8. Yeah. War Room Sports. Y'all ready? Let's go. Stay in tune to Jimmy. Know the blueprint. Yo. Every Thursday, 6 to 8, they do this. Shout out to Dev, PJ, B. Austin, Doc Bay on replay. WarRoomSports.com. Get that mobile app. If not, dial 323-140012. They be going and you sensitive, then oh well. Yeah. Physical podcast, let's talk sports. Showtime like Magic in the box course. Listen live, push 1 to join in. Rip your team or listen for your enjoyment. Hip-hop scholars, tip-stop and knowledge. Should be in sports credits, I ain't talking college. 5 guys, no beef though. Corporate secret, but the streets know. Belafonte, I got a G flow. KC royalty, I'm in beast mode. 2 hours, get your game up. Who's the best in sports cast? You better name us. War Room Sports. Yeah, Jimmy, Dad, DJ, Jack Beck, B. Austin. I'm chopped. Up and coming on the beat.
War Room Sports. www.warroomsports.com. What? Ain't no more to it.